Hi, David Odell here with Odell Complete Concrete. This is our first day on this job site. We've already tied the rebar in place. The general contractor that's going to be doing the wood flooring glue down, he put the plastic down on the floor and he drilled all the way around the perimeter into the stem wall, concrete stem wall all the way around. So he drilled the holes. We just slipped the rebar in and tied it up. And then we hung some plastic on the drywall, and now we're pouring it out. And this particular mix design is a 3250 PSI, and it's a city mix or county. They require this for public works areas, this type of mix. And what it means really, besides just a high PSI, is that there's no fly ash in it. So no substitutes for cement. And it really went off nicely. And even though we were indoors with this particular mix design, from start to finish, about 3 hours, no bleed water. So the plastic that we hung on the drywall, it does a couple things actually. What it does is it prevents splattering on the walls of the concrete, and also it helps prevent moisture absorbing into the drywall from the concrete. Dual purpose. Now we've got the aluminum rod board, which is a 12-footer. That little box you see sticking up there in the middle, that's going to be for a receptacle, because the new sectional couch sits right about there, and there's going to be an end table that will have a lamp or something that requires electricity, and instead of pulling the cord across the floor to hit a wall, you can just drop it in right there. It'll be somewhat hidden. So it's a little high there, and once they get the flooring in, they'll cut that down to the right level, and it'll flush out. So on one side we have tile right here, the near side. As you can see, there's some tile there. We have to stay about 5/8 to 3/4 of an inch below that tile to allow for the new glue down wood flooring. And I've got to tell you, whenever you're allowing for something to go on top of concrete, you're better off being low than high, because it's really hard the next day to get the concrete down, but it's a lot easier to make it go up by adding some floor leveling compounds, maybe some extra glue, whatever. But it's a lot more difficult to grind concrete down, especially indoors. You'd have a really big dust problem, and just opens up for a lot of problems. So go low, never high. Now on the other side, near the entrance there, that you can't really see at this point, but there's some that actually has the wood that's going to continue out through this whole floor. So we're going to stay, like I said, 5/8 to 3/4 below it. And as we go through the finishing process, we will throw a straight edge off of the existing floor, and we'll measure down to top of concrete to make sure that we have a minimal of 5/8, a max of 3/4. Surprisingly, typically when you get your other mixes in here, like say your 2500 mix PSI with the fly ash substitute for cement, you'd get all kinds of bleed water. But with this particular mix, pure cement and a high PSI, there's really no bleed water to speak of. So I'm going to really start going with this mix on everything. That's a 4-foot wide magnesium bowl float that you see there. It has a rocker arm on it. The way I bowl floated it is I started at the furthest point, and I only came back each pass about 6 feet. And when I got near to me, I pulled a pole off That way I wouldn't be banging holes into the wall behind me. Now we both floated it 2 directions, perpendicular to each other. That way it assures a flat floor. Not more than 30 minutes after the bowl floating, it was time to run Big Blue on it. It's basically just an oversized Fresno. Got some more weight to it, doesn't chatter, it lays it down flatter and quicker. And you can get on it later. You can with the typical Fresno too if you throw weights on it and what have you, but she still chatters somewhat. This one really doesn't have that chattering effect. We got a couple floor fans in here to circulate the air. We've got 2 fans going, one at the rear door, and we have that one as you can see there, so it's pushing the air through the house. That may have helped somewhat with the bleed water and the cure time. I think it's mostly the mixed design in this situation. Also, I put fiber mesh in here. That really doesn't do anything for the curing. And I used a half a pound per yard of concrete. And that fiber mesh I happen to have on sale right now through my website on my storefront, davidodellconcrete.com. That's the funny trowel you see going there. Basically what it is it's a trowel with a pole on it. I think the first time those actually came out was about 30 years ago. The first time I ever seen one, and that's when they came out. A lot of people were reluctant to use it, especially union guys really didn't like them, because what it did is it eliminated manpower. But that's after the funny trowel, just to kind of show you. That saves you 1 pass right there on the boards. Now as I go around here on my first pass, I'm going to tear the plastic off the wall, and this plastic that I use is it's about 0.25 of a mil thickness, so it's really thin. And the nice thing about it is when you pull it and you put it on the wall, the static electricity is enough to actually hold it there temporarily until you get some tape on it. Most plastics, you're not going to do that with anything thicker. It will just fall as soon as you put it up there. I've got the fiberglass knee boards there. They're a little bit bigger than the standard metal sliders, and they have a little bit more traction to them, so you actually can put a little more pressure on everything and without sliding out. Really nice for when you get on a grade of 2%. These will actually hold, whereas the metal ones, you'll be sliding downhill faster than you can keep up with your trowels. What I like to use is a 20 by 5 trowel. The lead edge is rounded and the back edge is square. Just the reason I have a square end still rather than a double round is in case I get into a corner, I can flip my trowel around and still work that corner out. Because as we all know, circles don't fit into squares, and likewise. So that's your finished product right there. As I was saying about the trowels, on your second pass you'll need a smaller trowel. I use a 12 by 5. A lot of people go with 12 by 4s just to scrub it up a little, and then final pass it with your big roundy. That way you're not leaving any trowel marks. But the harder it gets and the more you go over it, the smoother it gets. There's no doubt about that. And the harder it is to make trowel marks. So you could put a square on here, 2 inch by a foot, and you'd have a hard time making trowel marks in it if it was hard enough. You're going to put a lot of force on it, and you're going to burn it black, rubbing some steel into it off of your trowel. Anyway, thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the next one.